Hi. I'm just going to be going over a what is an equation review. There was a little bit of a discrepancy with how work was being shown in the last problem set. So I just want to go through how to complete some problems from properly, like what me and Miss Burton are going to be looking for. So I just want you guys see my face. Hello. Please come to our virtual office hours. We have virtual office hours every day from 9 to 11 a.m. And then we also have a virtual check-in from 10:30 to 11 o'clock for freshmen that we've been emailing the links for, and they're also posted on Google Classroom. So we hope to see you there. I'm going to turn my camera off for now, and we're going to get into the PowerPoint. Bye. Okay, so we're just going to go through some general reviews. So this is going to look pretty familiar. So just some vocabulary review. An expression is a collection of numbers and symbols that expresses a quantity. This doesn't have an equal sign. So we use these to just break up general ideas. So for example, if I wanted to find out how many pots and pans I have in my house, I can use a variable to represent frying pans and pots. So F and P. And then I can make just a statement about how many pots and pans I have in terms of variables. And that would be equivalent to an expression. But the difference between that and an equation is that an equation is two statements that are claiming that they're equal to each other, which is not the same as an expression. So you could think of an expression as one half of an equation. And the way that we solve these equations are we use inverse operations, which is this last bit, in order to undo the operations that are being done to the equations. So this next slide tells you a little bit about these inverse operations. This is a very familiar graphic. So we have the inverse of addition is subtraction, and then vice versa, the inverse of subtraction is addition. And then we have the inverse of multiplication is division, and then the inverse of division is multiplication. So what you want to do here is if you see either or any of these operations, you want to look for its inverse in order to undo them. Okay? So the big idea here is that we are, like I said, we're using these inverse operations to move pieces of the expression across the equations from one side to the other, which will become very important when we start talking about higher level equations, like equations that have multiple variables, equations that have multiple pieces. But right now we're just dealing with one step equation, so things you can do in one step. Okay. Now, this is the golden rule of algebra. What you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. So this is like a scale. If we take a quantity from one side of the scale, this one of the pans will go down. So like, for example, this one can go down and then this one will go up. That's unfair. So we need to make sure that we're doing the same thing to both sides so that way our scale becomes balanced. Okay, so these are some practice examples. I want you to make sure that you're filling in steps 1 and 2 for your practice, and then showing me the steps that you're doing for steps 3 and 4, which is indicating the solution. So for example, if I have 6c plus 7 equals 10, okay, this is an equation. There's no equal sign in this statement. So this is just identifying what this is. And if we were going to solve this, this is a two-step equation. So we would have to do a couple of things. We would subtract first, and then we would divide. Okay, and now this is an example of an expression here. I have 5x plus 8x plus 8. This is an expression because there's no equal sign present in this statement. So these are going to be two types of questions. I saw you guys leave these blank. I left comments and feedback, and I want you guys to just definitely take some time to correct that. Okay, so here's some examples. We're going to solve for the missing variable. I have x plus 10 equals 12. The first thing you're going to do is identify the operation. So this is addition, right? So I need to see that filled in. Then the second thing you're going to do is do the inverse operation, identify that. So we have addition, so my inverse operation is subtraction. And now I'm going to do that operation and identify a solution. So I'm just going to show you the work for that underneath. I'm going to rewrite my equation. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. We can see we're subtracting as indicated in step 2, which is up here. The big thing that I saw here was you guys were identifying these correctly and then not doing the right step. So they would say, you guys would say like addition, yes, the inverse operation is subtraction, and then down here we would add 10 instead of subtracting 10. So just make sure that you're doing these slowly so that way you have the correct answer. So I have 12 minus 10 equals 2. Okay, so let's do another one. So we have x minus 14 is 8. I'm going to identify that first operation, the only operation in the equation. So that's subtraction. The opposite of that is addition. And then I'm going to do that operation and identify the solution. So I copy my problem. I'm adding 14 to both sides of the equation. I'm adding as indicated in step 2 here, and then I get my final answer. Someone did leave a comment and ask me, why are we lining this up? This idea here is that we have negative 14 plus 14 is 0. Do I have to write a 0? If I have like x minus 0, do I have to write that? No, you wouldn't write like, oh, I added $0 to my bank account. Like that, there's no point in writing plus or minus 0, so we leave that alone. So that's the reason why we line these up on each other. Okay, so shout out to the scholar who asked me that question. Okay, so we have 2 more. As 6x equals 18. First thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the operation. If I have a variable linked next to a coefficient, which is a 6, I know that my operation is multiplication. The opposite of that is division. And then we're going to do that operation and then identify a solution. Okay, I have 6x equals 18. Okay, I'm dividing. I'm sorry, my little line didn't show up. I was supposed to divide line. And, oh, there they go. Okay. And then I end up getting 18 divided by 6 equals 30. Okay. And then last but not least, I have this all laid out. So this is the way the problem should look from beginning to end. I have x divided by 2 equals 4. That's what this little bar is. This is a division sign. Is equal to 4. So we identify division. I identify the opposite operation, which is multiplication. And then I do that operation on both sides of the equation and identify the solution. So I rewrite my equation, x divided by 2 equals 4. I multiply by 2 on both sides because I indicated that I'm doing multiplication. And then this is going to neutralize. I'm going to have 2 times a half, which gives me 1. So that also will eliminate out. And then I have 4 times 2, which is 8. Okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys are safe. Have a great Monday. Please reach out to myself or Mrs. Burton with any questions, comments, concerns, issues.